movie. Check it out and look at it. I'm sure it'll give you some different things to think about. We have also 76 reference books. Those are books that need to stay here, but they're books like Unity, 100 Years of Faith, which is a kind of a picture book of the history of unity. There's a complete index of Charles Fillmore's writings, so if you need that kind of information, it's there. Or if you'd like to do some Bible research, here's just a few of the Bibles that are in the reference section. Women of the Bible, Men's Study Bible, George Lomsa Bible, Bible in Pictures, Metaphysical Bible, Possibility Thinkers Bible, and so on. So you'll find a lot of things to research there. The library contains many copies of books that are referenced by Dr. Jane and Dr. Gary during the Sunday service. So here are some examples. Deepak Chopra, we have 8 of his books. John Sprong, there's 6. Eric Butterworth, 5. Joe Dispenza, You Are the Placebo, we have, as well as his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. The way you check out a book, in the back of each of these books, you'll find a library card, old-fashioned library card. All you have to do is take it out, sign your name and the date on it, and put it in the little basket that's on the coffee table in the library. And we will put that on file. You can keep the book for a month. When you bring it back, just put the book in the basket. We'll find the card, put it back in the book, and put the book on the shelf. So all you have to do is sign your name and take the book home. Okay, so the other thing that we have that's kind of new, there's a picture display in there. And actually, Jane has resurrected the archive photos that have been stored in boxes in the basement and brought them up a few at a time. Right now, there is a picture history of our church in the early 1900s. So fun to look at. Jane plans to change that display from time to time, probably once a month. So it'll be fun to see what history she comes up with, and so we can take a look at that. So, in closing, we invite you to come to the library, browse through the collection of books, check out a book, which you'll be able to keep for a month, like I said, and spend a few hours with the old technology of holding a book in your hand. Thank you very much. Where is it? Oh, right behind the sliding doors there, so it's a magic room. Yeah.
So before we get started for our meditation, I just want to share a little bit about what we're going to experience. Have you ever received a phone call with someone in distress and you didn't know what to do, but you really wanted to help that person? Or do you know of somebody who is really in a very difficult place and you care so deeply about what's happening for them, but you just don't know what to do that would be helpful or make a difference? And so I'm going to share a technique that I use in those kinds of situations, receiving a phone call, someone's desperate, and I can't really do something because I'm so far away, but I can go to my center, go to my heart, and I connect up to this field of infinite possibilities, and I can be a conduit, an avenue through which that connection to spirit through me to whatever the situation is can happen. And so I want to share a technique like that. So I want you to think about a person before we get started. A person that you want to send some energy to. A person that needs something that can only come from this dimension of life that we call spirit, that we call God. And so let's get ready for a meditation experience.
In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. In the stillness of this moment, there is peace. And I rest and trust and breathe and know. In the stillness of this moment, there is in the stillness of this moment, there is love, there is love. In the stillness of this moment, there is love, there is love. And I rest and trust and breathe and know. In the stillness of this moment, there is
Step 1. Let us bring into our awareness someone or something that we appreciate. Let us fill our heart felt sense of love and appreciation. Opening our awareness to that place within us, our very center, where we're connected to all of life. And so as we generate the felt sense of appreciation and gratitude, as each of us in this sanctuary begin to open our hearts, we create a resonance field of heart-centered coherence. And so whenever we're called to be a channel, an avenue, a way through which the activity of spirit can express, the first step is to open our hearts and connect. Feel our connection beyond ourselves to all of life. And so step 2, to feel the depth of connection, oneness. And so imagine what it feels like right now in this moment to be connected to everyone, to everything, everywhere, in all time. Feeling our connection and our oneness with all of life, with all that is, where there's no separation, no absence of presence, of love. And in our awareness of our oneness with God, our connection to all of life, to each other, we now go beyond any thought or sense of self. We take our awareness off of our life, off of those for whom we would pray. We bring our awareness to center upon this infinite and eternal presence. And as we prepare to go into the silence, into the stillness, let us simply go beyond any notion of self, any care in this world, and simply connect to the allness, the oneness, the infinite presence of love. And then as we connect in the silence, bring into your mind's awareness that one, and allow that connection from the field of infinite possibilities to flow into this life in the silence. Breathe in, release. Breathe in and release. So let us give thanks in advance for the perfect outworking of Spirit. And so we give thanks that love knows where love needs to go, where strength knows where strength needs to be, where all the wondrous ways in which this moment has brought forth a greater good in all of our lives. We are grateful. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, God. So it is. Amen.
In the stillness of this moment, there is love, there is love. In the stillness of this moment, there is love, there is love. And I rest and trust and breathe and know. In the stillness of this moment, there is love.
Thank you. How beautiful. And it's true. In the stillness, there's love, there's peace, there's joy. And that is the power. Today we're going to talk about that power. Let's start off. I have a question for you. Is anybody here worried about the future in some way? Could be your own personal future, Could be worrying about the future of this country, or this planet, or your loved ones. Anyone? Well, it's confession time for me. I am definitely one of those people who worries, and frankly, about all of those things, all the above. So this morning I want to invite us all to take a closer look at what we can do about that. Are you up for it? Yes. So Dr. Gary has begun an exploration on the 5 unity principles and how they can truly transform our lives as we put them into practice. And that's good news for us, because I'm here to tell you that they can also help us to create a new future, transform our future. Because the way to create and to change the future, well, the way to change the future is to create it. And my talk title, as you heard, is Romancing the Future. By romancing, I mean attracting, cultivating, wooing, nurturing into existence, courting. And this idea of romancing the future comes from Dr. Joe Dispenza. Dr. Joe is pretty big on transformation and creating a new future, and he gives us some clues as to how to do that. And there's a saying in the New Thought world that worry is the misuse of imagination. And I would agree with that. Because here's what I've noticed, that my imagination runs wild, creatively conjuring up all of the things that could ever possibly go wrong. I'm convinced I could be a highly successful fiction writer just by revealing the contents of my mind. Because there's a storyteller in my head who is quite fond of spinning tales of doom. And of all the things that I worry and stew about, how many of them come to pass? Typically, whatever it is I'm imagining is way worse than what actually ends up happening. I'm reminded of the Mark Twain quote, "I'm an old man and have known many great many troubles, most of which never happened." And that's been my experience. But here's the thing, there's a reason why we do that. And it's because of an internal survival mechanism called the negativity bias. And what that means is that our brain, specifically the reptilian brain, is equipped to look for danger. We're designed to notice and focus on the negative rather than the positive. Rick Hanson, author of the book Buddha's Brain, uses the analogy of Velcro and Teflon to explain how this works. Since our brain's priority is survival, it's looking for threats rather than rainbows. And so positive things in our field of awareness tend to slide off of us like Teflon. We take them for granted, while focusing on the negative and holding on to it like Velcro as if our life depended upon it, because in fact it turns out that it does. It's much more important for our survival to see the crocodile lurking in the water than it is to discover if the water is safe enough to drink. You see, the crocodile is the more immediate threat. And so we need to notice that threat, and it sticks to our awareness like Velcro, whereas the cleanliness of the water, the beauty of the surroundings, those things take a back seat. They can slide off of us like Teflon. Now, a negativity bias has a positive intent, self-protection. It's very helpful when we want to go for a swim. Or, in our past, bless you, it was vital when we had saber-toothed tigers roaming around. However, in this day and age, we can easily be triggered by paper tigers. Traffic jams, mean tweets, a friend's thoughtless remark, our boss's judgment, breaking news blues, as you heard last time I spoke, especially if we feel powerless to change it. Khalil Gibran notes that it's not thinking about the future that causes the anxiety, it's thinking that it's out of our control. So believing that things are out of our control causes a great deal of fear, worry, anxiety, and for me, that morphs into anger. And when that happens, we will find ourselves emotionally hijacked, perpetually in survival mode, stuck in the clutches of the reptilian brain, or lizard brain, and we can end up focusing only on the negative, feeling threatened by it, making up stories around it, gathering evidence that confirms what our negativity bias is telling us, and feeling helpless to do anything about it. Does this sound familiar to you at all? I recently watched myself turn into a raging maniac, full-on lizard brain, when I got stuck in a traffic jam gridlock, and it took me 15 stoplights to get through because people kept blocking my lane. It wasn't my fault, and I was unable to fix it. And that triggered lizard brain even more. Now, I wish I could tell you that I stayed calm, connected to my heart, deep in the knowing that this was for me in some way. I would be lying if I told you that. In the state I was in, I threw out any belief in one presence, one power. And that nothing is against me thing? That went right out the window too. And it took me a while to calm down and remember what I know to be true, which is this: what we focus on expands. And if I'm looking through a lens that says these people are blocking my way and I can't go anywhere, Or I fear for our world, and there's nothing I can do about it except worry and feel helpless. Or those corporations are destroying the planet and I have no power to stop them, then I will have a very different experience of life than if I focus on the truth, what the heart intelligence can tell us, that I am a divine being here to claim the truth and to be the change that I'm seeking. And what I'm focusing on with my thoughts matters, especially when there's emotion behind it. The Buddha said it best, what we think, we become. We're all part of the oneness of life, and we have access to a deeper source that can transform our lives and those around us. And we have a choice as to what we focus on. Unity's first two principles tell us there's one presence, and that we are connected to that presence, that deeper source of oneness, that we're each an inlet and an outlet of the divine, and if that's true, then there is something we can do about transforming our lives. So let me ask you, are you ready to step into the truth of who you are, an expression of the divine? Are you willing to be the change you are looking for in the world? Are you prepared to romance the future that you want to see into manifestation? Yes. Well, the first step is to catch ourselves when we're stuck in a negativity bias moment, hearing the voice of doom, being run by rigid thought patterns from the past, angry or worrying about it all. And in that moment, to be able to pause, to awaken in the midst of the storyteller's yarn and be able to see it for what it is and step back. There is great power in the pause. It's what can give us a spaciousness in order to choose to respond rather than jumping into reactivity. And to live from this spaciousness doesn't mean we disengage from life. It means we stop fighting it. We stop resisting it. And when we're able to pause, we can stop looking for someone or something who is at fault. Because when I blame others, I remain at the mercy of whoever or whatever I am blaming. Do you see that? I hand over any power I have to make a difference. And that just brings up more feelings of helplessness. There's a better way. And it's time for us to up our game. Do you feel that? To move out of powerlessness, to step into who we've come here to be, to help usher in this new future. It can be done. We have way showers who have demonstrated what I'm talking about here. Mahatma Gandhi is one of my personal heroes. And he is an example of someone who romanced a new future into manifestation. He served as a willing conduit for peaceful, nonviolent transformation to emerge. Now let me tell you, he was not always so peaceful. As a young man, he was very hot-tempered. And he learned to overcome his anger. And not only that, but he was able to convert the passion behind it into compassion. He says this, I have learned through bitter experience the one supreme lesson to conserve my anger, and as heat conserved is transmuted into energy, even so our anger controlled can be transmuted into a power which can move the world. And that's the work. We need to clean up our own backyard, take care of our own unfinished business, heal and integrate any unconscious shadow material that we might be projecting out onto the world. As Gandhi says it, he could not expect to put out the fires of anger and hatred elsewhere if the same fires smoldered in his own heart. And that's the work for those of us who have a desire and a willingness to assist in the emergence of a kinder world, a new paradigm of living. Now, he was able to overcome his anger through his spiritual practice. For him, it was Hindu chanting and meditation. But we don't just swallow the anger. We also don't use our spiritual practice as a bypass. You know, it's not that candy-coated cow pie thing. It's not that. But we do have a power within us that can transmute the energy of that anger or that fear into something that can be a blessing. And so he took the passion from his anger and learned to channel it into a passion to change the world, make the world a better place. And it's not to say that painful emotions are bad or wrong. When they arise, we have to feel them. You know, the life cycle of an emotion is 90 seconds. Unless we try to squash it, and then it's a lifetime. And it's healthy to feel, to process, then to own these emotions as opposed to running from them or squashing them. They can serve as a wake-up call, the impetus for change. And when I look at Gandhi and his wisdom, I see a real David and Goliath story, this tiny man in a loincloth taking on the entire British Empire using nonviolence. And through his inner work, as well as his outer leadership, he demonstrated the power of love in action, transforming anger into compassion, moving from lizard brain to wizard brain. And we do that by tapping into the infinite intelligence in the stillness of the heart. You know, when I became aware of how much I was worrying about the future of this planet, I decided not to push it away. Instead, I set the timer for 10 minutes and I gave myself permission to worry about everything that could possibly go wrong. And when that timer went off, I was done. And then I set the timer for 20 minutes and I practiced going to my heart, feeling self-compassion, listening to my heart's wisdom around all of the things that I had been worrying about. And guess what? It worked. I became very peaceful and I gained clarity on what was mine to do. And I realized that this was my version of Gandhi's practice. And all of us can do this. Within us, there's an unchanging presence, awaiting our discovery. We may have believed that the situations, the people, the problems have power over us, but today, we can deliberately choose to align ourselves with the presence within and let it work through and as us, move from being reactive to being proactive. As the environmental activist Matthew Fox teaches, getting in touch with the mystic inside is the beginning of our deep service. By the way, Matthew Fox is going to be speaking here at an event that we are co-sponsoring with One Piece Many Paths on September 28th. So mark your calendars, Matthew Fox. And it's about finding the mystic within our own hearts. That's the beginning to connect with wizard brain. And it is an internal transformation, changing our state to one in which we are in alignment with what it is we are seeking to come forth. Do you feel that? And then acting from that state. Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, tells the story of a conversation he had with a man who was looking to attract a romantic relationship into his life. And so to create this new future, the man had prepared a list of all the things he was looking for in a wife. And Dr. Holmes looked at his list, and then he said to him, "The day that your reflected image in the spiritual universe measures up to that which you desire your wife to be, she will be there." And we can say that about whatever it is we're wanting to manifest. Prayer is not about making something happen. It's about changing our internal state in such a way that we come into alignment with the change we seek. And whatever it is, then it cannot help but happen. And it's time for us to stand up and to prove these principles that we espouse. In order to transform the future, I have to pay attention to what I'm creating right now. We're all creative beings. Are we creating our world through our noble, authentic selves, who we've come here to be, capital S, or through our limited identity, the small s, shadow self? And if I'm being triggered and affected emotionally by what's happening in my life and in the world, then I have to deal with that first, before I move into action. As Rumi wrote, "Yesterday I was clever, I wanted to change the world. Today I'm wise, I'm changing myself." So making the transition from outer blame to inner contemplation, that's a huge, huge step. Probably the biggest hurdle for us. When I got home from my raging traffic jam experience, it took me a while to get from lizard to wizard brain. I had some serious heart work to do to move into being a compassionate presence. Luckily for me, I had support in doing that. When Gary found out I was stuck in traffic and wondering if I might die of old age before he ever saw me again, he stopped everything he was doing, and he sat down and went into the meditative state that he just has shared with you. And he stayed there for me until that gridlock unjammed and I made my way home. And I felt his loving support. And that's the value of spiritual community. Do you see it? We hold each other up. We don't do this alone. We work together in a shared vision. And when we need support, we hold it for each other. The Franciscan nun Illia Delio, in her book, The Unbearable Wholeness of Being, writes, "We're not strangers in this evolving universe. We are its future." And that's the key to change. We have to own our role in this. As spiritual beings having a human experience here to make a difference, we are not strangers on this planet. We are the avenue through which evolutionary change and transformation happens. And if we want to bring about a paradigm shift to a kinder, more compassionate world, it can only happen through and as us. We can't leave it for somebody else. And it starts here. And there's a formula we can follow: believe, behave, become. So first, can you conceive of a more compassionate future that wants to emerge? Can you believe it's even possible? Because I have to tell you that it exists already. When we picture a new future, we're not creating it. It already exists in the mental realm. We're selecting it. So imagine if that future already exists in potentiality and it is calling forth something within you that only you can provide and that is necessary for it to manifest. And it emerges by romancing it into manifestation. Dr. Joe writes, "If you believe in the quantum model of reality, you understand that these problems and adversities in our lives are created from a certain level of consciousness or unconsciousness. And as Einstein reminds us, we can't solve a problem at the same level of consciousness that created it. We have to do something different. And the key is to match our emotional state to the future that we want to create and then act as if. Take the passion, take the intensity of the emotion that you may be feeling and let it be channeled into being the change that you seek. We need that passion if we're in it for the long haul. Believe, behave, become. The word faith stands for feel as if the thing happened. And we need to practice feeling the way we're going to feel when whatever we're envisioning comes forth. Rise to that feeling and then sustain it until it manifests. Take action from that feeling. Act as if. Make the thought an embodied experience. Bring yourself into agreement with the desired state of consciousness because we have to be the change before we see the change. As Abraham Hicks puts it, believe in what you want so much that it has no choice but to materialize. We might think of it as creating a new future as being kind to our future self. Can you get behind that? Being kind to your future self. Have you ever heard Jerry Seinfeld talk about morning guy and night guy? Well, it goes like this. Night guy likes to stay up late and watch television. And he has a talk with himself around midnight where he knows that he has to work early in the morning and should go to bed. He knows that he's going to regret it if he turns on that movie. But night guy says, well, that's morning guy's problem, and he turns on the movie. And then when he wakes up in the morning having 4 hours sleep, his first thought is, I hate night guy. Well, in the midst of this silliness, there is some Seinfeld-style wisdom here. And that is this. I don't want to find myself at the end of my life wondering why 2019 Jane didn't take the steps to bring forth a more compassionate world. I would like to be kinder to my future self, as well as my children and my grandchildren. Are you with me? Yes. All right. So this week, I'm going to invite you. Take some time and imagine you're at the end of your life right now looking at the August 2019 version of yourself. What message would you give to that 2019 self? How can you be kinder to that future self? And if you're up for it, there's a bonus question. What would be your biggest regret? Pay attention to the answer to that, and then take steps to make sure that you don't have that regret. And notice times when you become emotionally triggered in some way. When you do, let the feeling come, let it run its 90-second course, and then take time to pause, consult your heart, feel appreciation, sustain the feeling, move from lizard to wizard. And then in that state, ask your heart, is who I'm being right now in alignment with a kinder, more compassionate world that I want to see emerge? What must I transform within myself to serve its emergence? How will I feel when it comes to pass? Feel it now. And sustain the feeling until you're a vibrational match. Feel as if the thing happened and act as if the thing happened. Become the change. Romance the life you want into being. Your future self will thank you. And so it is.
Jane, where the heck were you driving?
Let me tell you. To drive home from here to my house takes me between 12 and 15 minutes, depending on how much I honor the speed limit. And it took me 1 hour to get home.
Everybody go that way when you go home today. I think that's right? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, we need to test her? Is that the whole idea?
No, we want to make it a 2-hour trip. We're going to test this romancing the future. Unity stands for peace in the presence of conflict, and for love in the presence of hatred, and for forgiveness in the presence of injury. Unity honors the many names to God, the many paths to God, for we know that there is only one power, one presence, one life. So whoever you are and wherever you are on your journey of transformation, you are always welcome here. We especially like to welcome anyone who is here for the first time, so if you feel comfortable raising your hand, our ushers will bring you a gift packet for you. Well, welcome. We're glad that you're here. Anybody else? Way over here, Mary. Well, on the outside of that packet, there's a form that you can fill out to be added to our mailing list for our weekly e-news update and our quarterly newsletter. If you're interested, please fill it in and drop it in the love offering bag as it comes around instead of giving a donation today. And also, after the service, you can take that packet to our barista stand and you can get a drink of your choice. I hear that the hot choice today is not hot chocolate, but chocolate milk.
So you can get that. And you can also take that to our bookstore and you can get a copy of today's service on a CD. And lastly, if you have any questions or would like a name tag, you can please visit our information desk and speak to someone on the welcome team, and they will help you out with that. And we are certainly glad you are here. Now it's time to welcome each other and greet each other with a handshake, a hug, a high five, whatever you are comfortable with. And we'll begin with our welcome song.
Well, for you to stand if you can, we're going to sing World Friends Here. We are all friends here. There are no strangers who walk inside that door. We welcome you to the church and our family of love. And hope you may our hearts the way you are. We are all friends here. There are no strangers once you walk inside that door. We welcome you to the church and our family of love. And hope you may our hearts the way you are.
I love this new gong, I tell you. Good morning, my name is Jim Sledge. I have the privilege of being the treasurer in your board of trustees, and this is a time of our community giving. And I am so glad to see all of you here today because you are my spiritual family. I was talking with a friend here out before the service, and we were kind of complaining a little bit about being, the world's kind of pushing down on us a bit. And then Jane reminds us that, we are the people, we are the spirits that are going to change all of that. And it's much easier to see the divinity in me than in others. So that's the part I'm working on. Charlie was saying something a little different about that, but I never listened to that spirit. But we are not only a spiritual community, but we also are a physical one. Hence, we do appreciate and bless your financial contributions to this place, which allows us to gather and to hear the messages that we hear from Jane and Gary. So we are so grateful. Let's take that gratitude into our hearts as we share our prosperity blessing together. Let's together. I know that my giving blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I give and receive. I give thanks for the abundance that is mine to share, and so it is.
Have a really fun song here for you this morning, and well, first of all, I want to give a shout out to all those folks that did Kids Week last week. Thank you to those adults, and bringing all that extra time. It was very fun. I taught a very fun ukulele class, and we actually learned 4 chords, so that's going to be an important thing. This song actually has a 5th chord, but that's just an acquired tune. So, this is what I call happy ukulele. And there's ukulele, and then there's ukulele, and then there's happy ukulele. And this song is a happy ukulele song. Fun one. Try it. Let's do it. Wake up, let me in your
All right, thank you, Sean. Thank you, Tani. Well, we give thanks for these gifts and for those who have given them as we send them forth to bless our world. Thank you. Our chaplains today are, if you will stand, we have Tim Ryburn and Marlene Locke, and we have Frida Morgenstern in the back. And Frida has been holding our service in prayer, which chaplain does every service. So if you have something that is heavy on your heart or something that is on love on your heart and you would like to pray over that, one of these guys will be up here at the end of service. And you can pray with them, and they'll hold it in prayer with you. And then there will be also, you can fill out a prayer request form that is in the seat pocket in front of you. And there is a prayer box at the back of the sanctuary, as well as in the foyer. And you can drop it in there. The prayer team will pray over that for 7 days, and then the prayers will be sent to Silent Unity and prayed over for another 30 days. Awesome, thank you. And if you know someone who's in the hospital, there's also a request form in the backs of those seat pockets. And our chaplains will be the ones that will go out and visit that person that would like that company. Are our children out there, Gary? In a moment, all right. Let's welcome in our children. We are singing, all this joy is our life. We are singing, all this joy is our life. We are singing, all this joy is our life. We are singing, all this joy is our life. We are singing, oh, we are singing, all this joy is our life. We are singing, oh, we are singing, all this joy is our life. We are singing, all this joy is our life. We are singing, all this joy is our life. We are singing, all this joy is our life. We are singing, all this joy is our life. We are singing, oh, we are singing, all this joy is our life. We are singing, oh, we are singing, all this joy is our life. We are singing, all this joy is our life. All right, welcome you guys. Did you guys have fun back there today? You didn't have fun. Well, okay, so we're just going to have to remedy that. Well, we were very grateful for you guys here at Unity Spiritual Center. We're also very grateful to those helping out in the youth sections back there. Thank you guys very much. Let's take a moment and bless our children, and to those in service as well. Be the love you are. Sing the song you hear. Share your joy of life with people far and near. And for ourselves. Be the love we are. Sing the song we hear. Share our joy of life with people far and near. All right, we invite our children to go find those that they came with. All right, please stand if you are able and join together for our closing prayer, followed by the peace song. All right, the light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And that's the truth. Peace that was meant to be with God.
This week, make sure you are kind to your future self. And so it is.